Hello everyone, this is Kevin again from the Worthy Law Group. Just wanted to do a few stories from August, and wanted to start with the Utah Lake Restoration Project. I went over to a First Friday forum with John Benson, the Utah Valley Chamber of Commerce does First Friday forum every Friday. Well, not every Friday, but every first Friday of the month. And I don't go to all of them. I'm actually not a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I think it's interesting. I like being able to meet different people. But you don't have to be a member to go to these particular events. And so there's a fee. It's like a $30 fee to or price or whatever you want to call it, to attend the breakfast. But I think it's worth it. I like I said, I don't go every time because sometimes the topics are not all that interesting to me, but this one piqued my interest. It was all about the Utah Lake Restoration Project. And so I thought, that's, I like lakes and I like the outdoors, and I really like the idea of getting Utah Lake fixed up. And so I went and attended, saw my friend Art Warsoff there. That was nice. He's a friend of mine. He does business brokering services with Transworld. Good guy, Jewish, which is kind of near and dear to my heart because I took classes at the Jewish Theological Seminary for a couple of years when I was in New York studying Hebrew. But back to the Utah Lake Restoration Project, I was really impressed with the presentation. There was a guy there named John Benson, I believe it was, who was the main spokesman doing the deck, the slide deck, and talking to everybody through everything. And he just had a really good grasp on the material, and apparently he's a very successful businessman in his own right, pretty young, but done some cool stuff. I don't know a ton about his career, but he was talking all about the project, and I was just really impressed. They started, probably 10 years ago. I don't know the names of all the different people involved, but there was a fellow, I believe he's an engineer. He worked on some really big cleanup projects in other parts of the country, and he lives in this area, and he just got to thinking, hey, this lake really needs some help. And so he started looking seriously into what that would take. How would you actually fix the problem, and how much would it cost, and how could you do it? And he found out that dredging was one of the options, but there was a lot of dredging that would need to be done, and you've got to do something with all the soil, and then there are a bunch of other things you've got to do to keep the water clean after you dredge. And so he ended up getting a bunch of other people involved. This John Benson guy got involved, a bunch of other people that have done these big geoengineering projects all over the world. One of them, I remember, was in Dubai. I don't actually know that much about that project, but from what I understand, it's just a very big geoengineering project. And they've got all kinds of different technology. John was talking about some of the technology during his presentation, and just very cool stuff. They're actually planning to build islands out on the lake, and they've got these, I don't even know how to describe them, but there are these things that you put in the water in the shape of the shoreline that you want. And then they start sucking out the water, and you can put soil in there. And so you can actually build these islands from scratch. So they're going to take all the soil that they dredge, and they're going to turn it into islands throughout the lake. They're going to build this big island city type thing in the middle of the lake. There are going to be some causeways going across it. There's going to be a lot of recreational stuff. Just a very cool project, I thought. And so I checked out the Utah Lake Restoration Project online, and they've got a website that goes into a lot of detail. So if this is something that you're at all interested in, I would encourage you to go check it out. You can just Google or Bing or whatever you do, and bring up Utah Lake Restoration Project. You get all kinds of detail about it, and I think you may really like it. Okay, so that's the Utah Lake Restoration Project. Other things that I did, I went with Lowell Nelson and Connor Boyack and a bunch of people to go see what was it? It was Little Pink House. It's basically a movie, pretty recent, I think, but it's a movie that was made about Kelo against New London, which is a Supreme Court case. It started in the Connecticut state courts, and then it ended up in the United States Supreme Court. And it's all about eminent domain. I haven't done a ton of eminent domain work, but I am a real estate lawyer. I do a lot of real estate litigation. And so it was interesting to me for that reason, and just wanted to go meet some of the folks over there at the movie. They did it over at the Megaplex Theater in Lehigh. Just rented out a theater for one show, one night, and a bunch of people got together. So I thought that was pretty enterprising, pretty cool that Lowell and the other guys would put that together. And I was just really intrigued by the story. It was a dramatization, so they weren't using real people. They were all actors and whatnot. But very cool. It's about this lady who buys this little house on I think it was a riverfront, basically. I'm not sure if it was a river or a lake, but it's this big, just got a really great view, and she fixes the house up. The house is all run down when she buys it. And anyway, she ends up getting into this conflict with the New London Development Corporation and the government of Connecticut, and so just a lot of problems. They, like I said, they end up in the United States Supreme Court. It was one of the most unpopular decisions that the United States Supreme Court has made in recent memory. So after the Supreme Court decided the case, there have been a bunch of state legislatures that have made laws that have limited the eminent domain powers of the state governments. And I think part of the point of showing this movie was to encourage people around here to think about that, like, hey, maybe we should get some laws in place that are limiting the eminent domain powers of the state government here. And I think that could be a good idea. Candidly, I don't know a ton about the eminent domain powers right now, and maybe we have adequate limits on those already. But something to think about. I mean, who knows when somebody might want to demolish your house in order to build a Walmart or to build the next Facebook plant or Adobe plant or whatever. And if you don't find out about it now, it might be too late later on. So anyway, interesting movie. You can, I'm not sure where you can get that. I don't know if that's on Netflix or where you can get that, but I recommend it. A couple other movies I saw, Death of a Nation and BlacKkKlansman, both very political. Death of a Nation was a Dinesh D'Souza movie, and very, it seemed like a pretty sustained attack on the Democratic Party and the left. I think that's something that he's done kind of a lot of over the years. And so if you like that kind of thing, you might really like this movie. I thought it was really provocative. I don't know how many of the underlying claims are really true, but he did a very thorough job of connecting the American left with the German left and the Nazi Party and things of that nature. Now, was he saying that Democrats are Nazis? No, but I think he was getting at this idea that Republicans are not fascists. One of the common insults that is hurled at some Republicans today is this fascist insult. And he was saying, hey, if people on the left are calling Republicans fascists, they have it completely backwards, because fascists were on the left. I mean, they were coming from the left. The Nazi Socialist Party was the party that became Hitler's party, of course. And so he goes on at some length about that. I thought it was an interesting movie. Again, I don't know how valid all the underlying claims are. He was a very effective filmmaker, though, and so that might be something that you're into. BlacKkKlansman, I thought, was pretty cool. I have mixed feelings about undercover cops and undercover operations. It seems deceptive to me, so I don't. It's hard for me to really get behind that kind of thing. But the movie was very well done. Spike Lee is a tremendously talented, skilled filmmaker, and he brought some really cool stuff to the fore. I mean, there were some scenes where he was contrasting this KKK white power mentality with the Black Student Union Black Power mentality, and he just puts it together so well, and just really makes you think about where the Black Power movement came from and why people are doing this back in the 60s and 70s when that kind of stuff was going on, the struggles that they had, and even the struggles that they were dealing with at that time. Just so powerful, so really interesting. So if you've got some time, you might want to go check that out. Other interesting things that I have been doing this month. One is Project Honduras. I've got a friend named Dave Medina who is, I don't know if he's the head of the effort around here, but I think he might be, and he's the one that I talk with anyway. But he is a real estate agent, lives out in Heber, and he is really into this Project Honduras stuff. Basically, it's a big fundraiser to help some communities, very poor communities down in Honduras. They don't have things like electricity. I don't know if they even have running water. I mean, I've seen some pictures, and they just look very primitive in a lot of ways. So I've been getting interested in that. That's very cool. If you're interested in donating or volunteering or anything like that on that project, let me know. Another very cool service opportunity, I guess you could say, it is Lifting Hands International. They do work for refugees. They've got a little warehouse in Pleasant Grove, and they gather together a bunch of supplies, donations, and then they pack them all up into boxes, put the boxes into shipping containers, and ship those out to Syria or to other places where refugees are in need of this basic stuff. So if that's something you want more information about, let me know about that as well, because I think both of those are very cool projects that people are doing. So running out of time here, but I think pretty much everybody who lives in Utah County has noticed the smoke from and the haze and whatnot from wherever it is. I've been tracking that Coal Hollow fire fairly closely. I haven't actually been down to go check it out physically. I want to do that. As of right now, I think they've got it about 80% contained. Still a lot of closures and evacuation orders and things like that south of Highway 6. But I want to go down there and check it out in person. May want to also check out the Dollar Ridge fire. It's just sad that stuff happens. I mean, with Coal Hollow, it's lightning, so it's not that bad. But just very grateful. Sad that this stuff happens. Sad that it threatens our communities. But grateful for the firefighters out there. Just think they're doing some very cool stuff. So I think that's about all I've got time for in terms of stories from August. But if you made it this far, thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great month.